We are joined right now by an NFL Network analyst. He had a 12-year career in the National Football League as a player and a scout. He is founder of Big Play Football. He is head coach at Granada Hills Charter High School. He is host of the Move the Sticks podcast along with Daniel Jeremiah. It is a great pod. You can follow him on Twitter at Bucky Brooks. And NFL Network is going to carry a quadruple header of preseason Week 2 games live on Saturday starting at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We are joined once again by Bucky Brooks. Bucky, good to have you back. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How you doing, Jim?
Good, man. Thanks so much. So Week 2 of the preseason, Bucky, started last night. You called the Cleveland-Jacksonville game in Week 1. I'm really curious, what did you make of what you saw from Trevor Lawrence?
Trevor Lawrence is going to be really good, man. I think the best way to compare him is to, whatever your thoughts are on Justin Herbert, keep the same thoughts when it comes to Trevor Lawrence, but maybe add a little more pizzazz. They are so similar in terms of their size, their athleticism, their arm talent, their football IQ. I believe Trevor Lawrence is going to hit the ground running in Jacksonville. He has all the tools that you look for, but he also has the right personality to be a franchise quarterback. I know that Coach Meyer is going through this quarterback competition with Gardner Minshew and those things, but he is only doing this because Trevor Lawrence will allow that to happen. He is wired the right way. He doesn't mind having to prove to everyone that he is the real deal at the position.
Bucky Brooks joining us. So, Bucky, exactly what is that about? Like, I absolutely accept everything you just said about Trevor Lawrence. I think everybody does. I'm sure Herb himself does. So why go through that whole practice of having, quote, a quarterback competition? And if, in fact, one even exists, is it at all close?
I think what you do is when you're a coach, you're trying to go through and create an environment where everyone has to earn everything. So all the jobs are open. We're not giving away jobs. You have to earn the opportunity to be on the field. And so with the quarterback, they're trying to make sure that the quarterback is treated like the other positions. But I would tell you, having watched them a few different times, one at a scrimmage, another in a preseason game, in my mind, it's not even close between Trevor Lawrence and Gardner Minshew. Trevor Lawrence is a big-time quarterback. Every time you watch the Jaguars practice or play, there are 2 or 3 throws that he makes that kind of validate his status as a guy that was the number 1 overall pick. I think it's really about letting them go through the process, eventually naming him the starter, and giving them the tools to succeed. But I think even in envisioning how the Jaguars are going to play at the beginning of the year, it's going to be run-centric with Trevor Lawrence throwing off play action and complimentary plays until he is ready to completely take it over and let it be a show.
Bucky Brooks is joining us once again. So, Bucky, let me get you to expand on and complete that thought. What do you make of this Jacksonville team overall? What kind of a season are you expecting from them?
You know, it's interesting, Jim, because when you talk to the team first, the team echoes the same words all the time, right? They talk about being at your best, pushing yourself to be at your best each and every day. When you ask them about Coach Meyer, they said the one thing that we have learned from him is, look, we want to be the best at everything. So it's the best players, the best coaches, the best support staff. Everybody in the building is committed to being the best. When you talk to Coach Meyer, I will say that he has a personality that kind of brings you forward in your chair when he's talking. He has a clear vision for how he wants the team to play. He has consulted a lot of people on how to build a team. One of those guys is Jimmy Johnson. You know he's tight with Bill Belichick. He certainly understands how he wants the team to play, and this team is going to play fast, they're going to be physical, and we'll see how many wins they're able to stack up at the end of the year.
We're talking to Bucky Brooks. All right, Bucky, let me jump around a little bit. I thought you made a really interesting point recently when you compared Trey Lance to a young Donovan McNabb. Lay that out for us. What do you see in Lance that reminds you of McNabb?
Yeah, I mean, everything. When you go back, and I think people need to understand how Donovan McNabb came into the league. When Donovan McNabb came into the league out of Syracuse, he was kind of boy wonder, super athletic, high IQ, could do a bunch of different things with his arm and legs. When I look at Trey Lance, it's the same thing. This guy understands it. He has the ability to kind of process information, great football aptitude, and he's really understanding Kyle Shanahan's offense. Now, he's not perfect right now. He's not necessarily ready to play and play at a high level if they gave him the ball as the starting quarterback. But what he gives the 49ers is an added dimension. Kyle Shanahan can now dig back into that playbook and use some of the things that allowed RG3 to be an offensive rookie of the year to go with an offensive scheme that just absolutely pummels opponents with the running game. I believe Trey Lance eventually makes the 49ers offense dangerous. It makes it a nightmare to defend. And because of that, I believe Kyle Shanahan eventually hands the ball to Trey Lance and allows him to be the QB1 of this team.
So, Bucky, if so, and certainly it's going to happen, when do you think that's going to happen? For instance, how long do you think it'll take before Kyle Shanahan goes all in with Lance?
I think a lot of it is dependent upon Lance. I don't expect it to be week 1 of the regular season, but I'm thinking if there's an entryway where he can get him onto the field, where they have him in packages and he begins to show that he can do more, I think we begin to see Trey Lance maybe by mid-season. A lot of that will be how he performs on the practice field, and some of it will be on how does Jimmy Garoppolo perform if he is the opening day starter, if he is the regular season starter, and he starts a few games to begin the year. How does he handle that? How does he perform? And how does this offense respond with him at the quarterback position?
We're talking to Bucky Brooks. Bucky, let's talk Zach Wilson for a minute. Did not have the best outing in the team scrimmage in the stadium earlier this month. How did he look to you, though, in the first preseason game? And what's your sense as to his long-term future?
Well, one thing he's as advertised. He has a live arm. He is really athletic. He's really cool in terms of the way he is inside and outside the pocket, the way he plays the game. He just has a nice rhythm and feel to him. Look, he's in a tough circumstance because the Jets have not only a new head coach, first-time play caller. You look around, I don't know how many A-level weapons they have on that offense. And so he is going to have to do more than some guys like a Mac Jones, who is kind of surrounded by talent and premier coaching. This will be tough for him, but I think he's built the right way. I know he's talented enough to be a high-level player in the league at the time. It's just a matter of can they surround him with the right weapons that allow him to fully maximize his potential. And
then, Bucky, on the other side, what a brutal blow yesterday when Carl Lawson was lost for the season with that Achilles injury. In fact, how big of a blow is that to the Jets and what Robert Saleh wants to do with that defense?
I mean, it's a huge blow. The biggest weakness on the Jets going into the year had been their pass rush. So in the offseason, they go and get Carl Lawson to upgrade it. And even though when you look at Carl Lawson's sack numbers, his athleticism and activity made him a very disruptive player on the edge. And then you remove that from the lineup, the only player up front that scares people will be Quentin Williams, and he's an inside player. So it changes. It will force him to be a little more creative with the scheme. And how much of that, I mean, he may not be able to be fully creative because it requires the corners to be able to hold up. So Robert Saleh will have to kind of figure this out on the fly. But this is a huge blow for the Jets.
Covering a lot of ground, Bucky Brooks, and we'll do so for a few more moments. Bucky, one of my favorite players, I think a really interesting player, is Jamal Adams. He and Seattle agreed to a contract extension. In your opinion, did he get what he deserved for how he plays? In other words, is he more of a safety or practically a line of scrimmage player when it comes to his impact?
It's funny that you bring that up because I believe he's what we're seeing more in the league is he's a hybrid. He is a half linebacker, half safety. He does his damage near the box. In fact, if you go all the way back, and who I really believe he is he's this era's version of Troy Polamalu. When you think about how Troy Polamalu played in Pittsburgh, he was down in the line of scrimmage. His production early in his career came on sacks, tackles for loss, forced fumbles, very much like Jamal Adams. He is also a guy who is a perfect partner or playmate to Bobby Wagner. The reason why this deal is structured the way it's structured is because they did not want to pay him $1 more than Bobby Wagner. Bobby Wagner tapped out at $18 million. You have Jamal Adams coming in at $17.5. But if you look at this, if you look at the safety market and the off-the-ball linebacker market, meaning we saw Darius Leonard and my guy from San Francisco, Fred Warner, just get paid at $19 million. Justin Simmons was coming in at $15. They basically split the baby and paid him premier prices for the top linebackers and safeties. That's why he comes in at $17.5.
Interesting. Bucky Brooks joining us. So, Bucky, you and DJ hit on something that I've talked about on the program that I think is really interesting, and that's identity, right? You have teams, good teams have an identity and bad teams don't. For all the talk about the issues, for instance, with Baltimore's passing game, how much of their identity is about that offensive line?
I mean, all of it is the offensive line. The Baltimore Ravens are a team that wants to punch you in the mouth. They want to play old school smash mouth football. They want to run the football. And when they do it, teams are having a tough time stopping it. And a lot of emphasis has been on the Ravens' postseason failures. But I will say this. I believe they get out of character in the postseason trying to prove to the outsiders, the white noise, that they can throw and do other things. But when the Ravens play their style of football, it's been proven there aren't many teams that can beat them. Hence the 30-7 regular season record when Lamar Jackson has been the starter. I believe the Ravens are doubling down and saying, we are going to play our way, and at some point, we'll crack the safe being able to do it that way.
We're talking to Bucky Brooks. All right, Bucky, so in terms of identity, for instance, what about the Saints? I mean, they had an identity for such a long time under Sean Payton and Drew Brees. Now that Brees is no longer there, how much does that identity change, and what do you think that will look like?
Man, and who knows? Because a lot of it depends on the quarterback. I would say that without looking at the competition closely, Jameis Winston would allow them to continue to play the way that they played with Drew Brees, meaning Jameis Winston is the starter. Taysom Hill can continue to do the Swiss Army knife stuff, and the offense will be effective. If you put Taysom Hill in as the starter, you lose that ability to change the game by putting another player in that can do a bunch of different things. And so, to me, it would be interesting to see how does Sean Payton handle this situation. Does he have a promise to Taysom Hill that Taysom Hill will get first crack at the position, and so he has to start him early? Or is this a situation where he's trying to put the best offense together where he is, hey, I'm going to use Jameis as a drop-back thrower, I'm going to use Taysom Hill as a Swiss Army knife, and this allows us to play the way that we played over the last decade.
I think this is such good information. So one final thought, one final question. For a long time, the Browns, Bucky, their identity was not good. In fact, it was kind of horrible. Have you seen enough from them under Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski to declare that they have a firm identity now? And if so, how would you describe it?
Oh, I love what the Browns are doing. I believe they have a very clear vision for how they want to play, and I think it's very apparent. This is an old-school smash-mouth team that is built to win the division. Because remember, in the division, you're dealing with Pittsburgh, you're dealing with the Baltimore Ravens. You have to be able to stand up and go toe-to-toe with those teams. The Cleveland Browns can do that. Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, maybe the best offensive line in football, a very talented defense. The only X factor is Baker Mayfield, because when they get down to it and they get into the postseason, you need your quarterback to make 4 or 5 plays a game. If Baker Mayfield can make those 4 or 5 plays, we could be talking about the Cleveland Browns being a Super Bowl team.
Oh, I think so, too. I absolutely love them. Are you sold on Baker as that guy that can make those 4 or 5 plays that he has to make?
You know, I'm not necessarily sold that like Baker Mayfield is in the same class as Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, but it really doesn't matter because if they win at the level that they won at last year, he's going to get paid at that level because he's the winner. I think you can be very successful in that system because, remember, that system made Jared Goff a Pro Bowler. That system has helped Kirk Cousins make a ton of money. That system even made life easy for Case Keenum. So if Baker Mayfield embraces what it is, being a system quarterback and just doing what the system gives him or affords him with the opportunities, Baker Mayfield will be fine, and he'll make those plays that they need to make.
He is an NFL Network analyst. Remember, NFL Network is going to carry a quadruple header of preseason Week 2 games live on Saturday starting at 1 p.m. Eastern. Bucky Brooks had a 12-year career as an NFL player and scout, and you definitely want to listen to him along with DJ on the Move the Sticks podcast. Bucky, we covered a lot of ground, man. Thank you so much for that. Great job as always, and I appreciate you.
Hey, thanks so much, Jim.